It's another episode of NRG Insights. Yeah, NRG Insights. So we normally speak to brokers and also people around the broking world. But for this series for the new year, we thought we'd mix things up a bit and speak to a few lenders, just find out a little bit more about how they think the year's going to come and a little bit more about their propositions and that kind of thing. So today I've got Guy, who is the founder of Glenhawk Group. So welcome, Guy.
Thanks for having me, Marcus.
So let's just start with, so talk to me about the how Glenhawk came to fruition.
Yeah, sure. So seems a long time ago now. After COVID, 3 or 4 prime ministers, wars, inflation, rate rises, and everything else we've had. But
It was a good time.
it was
It was
back.
a good time for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging. Let's say that. Glenhawk came about because I was developing property in London for a consortium of investors. We were taking out bridging finance at the time with the usual suspects, some great businesses, like Lend Invest and formerly Amicus, who sadly didn't work out, but we borrowed a lot of those guys. And I always thought there's a hole in the market for an ethical bridging lender, someone who looks at the client, looks at the development site, comes to the site and goes, you know what, we understand what you're trying to do here and we get it and we want to help, make you money ultimately at the end of the day. Yeah. Lender makes money, borrower makes money, the broker makes money. Everybody wins in the transaction. So I saw a gap there for it, set about putting a business plan together for the business, which at the time was going to be called Vention Capital. But the name soon changed after I realised I think nearly every lender had capital in their name.
Where did the original name come from?
So the Vention name.
Yeah.
So for the 35 years, I've been going to a caravan every summer in Devon with my mum and dad. Not recently, I don't go on holiday with my mum and dad anymore. But caravan holidays are what I loved as a kid. And there was one right on the beach in a little place called Putsborough in North Devon, beautiful white sandy beach near Woolacombe. And the road behind it's called Vention. And I had so many happy memories of being there, I thought I'd just call it Vention. Nice. And then the Glenhawk name was bought off a domain branding site called Novanim for I think £800. So no real.
I'm sure I've read this before that you sometimes make up the reason why it was called.
Yeah. So a glen is a valley in Scotland, and then a hawk flies between it. So you could say that's bridging the gap if you really wanted to get super marketeer about it. But no, it was just bought off a domain branding site. The Glenhawk was born all from my frustrations with dealing with other lenders and thinking I can do it better. And it's like any business in life, you can take anything and put your own, secret sauce on it and then build the layers on top. And that's essentially how it started in 2017. And then we did our first loan in March 2018. And then since then we've lent just under £1 billion into the space.
Wow, that's a lot of dough. So do you think that happens a lot just in regards to businesses? They're bought, like you said, they're born out of frustration or just feeling like you could do it a bit better. I think that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're the same, Marcus. You saw an opportunity in the market to improve, do something slightly better. I use the analogy as it's like a DJ. I'm not a DJ. I wish I was. Jamie Pritchard is, and Darren also in our businesses, but I'm definitely not. But it's like if you turn 100 different dials by one turn or one slight movement, the end outcome is going to be massively different. And it sounds simple, but that's all you need to do to have a successful business is to just do it better than what someone else is doing. My view is you always need to be either first into the market and take first mover advantage, last into the market and learn from what everybody else has done, which probably is what we did. You just don't really want to get stuck in the middle in that messy middle sort of ground.
So that kind of that 1% better type shift, like turning the dials. Is that the reason why do you think? Because obviously the market is relatively saturated with bridge, not saturated, and there's loads of business to be had, but there's lots and lots of bridges. And do you think that's it? Do you think everyone just looks and wants to put their own little tweak on it? Because I think there's 240 lenders, 240.
There's loads, and it's
a little bit less now than there was last year, but still.
Yeah, definitely. A lot have dropped off. But it's when people say to me, "What's your USP?" I probably undersell myself in the business and say, there is no USP in bridge lending. It's a strategic, short-term tool that developers use and investors use to acquire property quickly. quicker than a bank can normally lend. There's no real secret sauce about it. It's for me, it's all down to the people, it's the team, it's the passion, it's the brand, it's your access to funding, it's your vision. Everybody and everything plays a part in this. There's no one thing where I can point at and go, that's why we're the best in the market. It's a whole combination of factors. So when people come in and go, we're doing something unique, you're not really, with full respect to them.
You say that. Obviously, I'm not speaking to the BDMs now, but they've all have to go and sell the USP, and it's refreshing to hear founders and they go, that's not a USP. Like, speed is what a bridge is, right? And
and that's why they're taking it. And probably the main thing is, it's not a USP. It's your reputation and it's your team. And if you can deliver, brokers know that we can deliver. When hard decisions need to be made or hard conversations need to be had, we can do them. And the broker knows, right, if there's a problem there, they're going to get on the phone and sort it out. It's all about getting on the phone, all about relationships and ensuring that, we deliver the best possible service we can and are completely transparent. And that's what everybody wants these days. There's no BS, no hiding away from anything, just times are good, we'll tell you. Times are bad, we'll tell you. Let's work together. And that's all we can do, really.
And speaking of the interesting times, obviously this year has been relatively challenging for financial services as a whole. How's it for you guys, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah, I mean, painful. I think I've spoke openly about this because it's no secret. We borrow at a variable rate, we lend at a fixed rate, right? We've got JP Morgan are one of our main funders, and NatWest Markets, the investment bank side of NatWest Markets, are our main funders, as well as a few American hedge funds. And we borrow at variable, we lend at fixed. So clearly, a lot of loans that we did in the last 18 months were at rates of 0.55, 0.6 a month. Our borrowing costs went up. Our fixed book was here, so we were underwater on quite a lot of the loans. Yeah. When I say underwater, we were just losing our interest margin on it. So we probably got hit in the last year by about 4 million in our pocket, which was painful, but we're fortunate, we're well capitalised, and we can stomach it. There's a lot of lenders out there that are suffering, and as I'm sure you're seeing, there's layoffs happening in buy-to-let lenders, banks, and so on. But fortunately, we've held the team, we've hired a few more people actually, and we've ridden it really well. So financially, very painful. However, the book's repriced now. I think we probably only have 20% of the loan book to go before we fully repriced all the old loans. But we survived it, and it was a challenging year. People, come back to me and say, "Oh, why don't you hedge your loan book?" Bridging loans, very short term. You can't hedge them. It's impossible to do. And if someone had said to you a year ago, do you want to spend 1.5 million and hedge your loan book, which we had the option of doing? In hindsight, great. The reality is 1.5 million is a lot of money. We decided not to as a collective, but ultimately we survived it. We're thriving, and it's been a challenging year.
Out of surviving it and thriving and that kind of thing, it sharpens the tools, right? These tricky times. Do you feel like that? Like the team gets sharper? Because I think a lot of the deadwoods left the industry, and it's the same for brokers, lenders, or whatever, or especially recruitment because it's such a low bar to get into. But you lose so many people when it gets tough. And I think the best teams get better because you hopefully you learn from it, and then everyone is better when the market picks up. We're all a little bit sharper, we're all a little bit better, and we all understand that the things that were important to us are super important. We don't lose them.
Completely. You build up that mental resilience, and it's like, a cricket bat when I used to play when I was younger. The more you use it, the better it gets. The more and more it bounces back, and you have to be like that. And the one thing that took me, a few years to realize is that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Life's not easy. It's not fair. Business is not easy. It's not fair. And the shit's going to hit the fan a lot. And it's how you deal with the shit hitting the fan. When the times are great, be calm, be cool. Everything's good. Great. But you always have to remember that just around the corner is something that's going to try and trip you up. No matter your business, no matter what you're doing, there's always someone or something out there that's going to be a curveball on a Friday afternoon, or what I call an FU Friday, where you're going to get an email about something and it's going to be like throwing you off course. But you've just got to recorrect, get back on your path, and never expect life to be completely linear. It's got good days, bad days, and you just got to find that middle ground in between, which in any business, in your business, in ours, brokers, we all have the exact same pains, trials and tribulations, and it makes us stronger and it makes us more resilient people at the end of the day.
Out of interest, how much do you kind of share with the team about that? Because you shoulder the burden, right? That's your job as founder. Through these tough times, because I'm not sure if it was relayed as much, especially I see on the broker side, only because we speak to people when they're saying, "Oh, we've gone because they've business levels have dropped and that kind of thing." But I'm not sure it was relayed to people that it wasn't a company problem; it was an industry problem. Are you quite open with your guys as to what's happening and what's not, and what's going on in the market as well as you as a company?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I try to give everyone, I always operate this like open door policy. I mean, we're not a big company, we're 50 people, we're a reasonable size, but I always have a policy where anyone can come and talk to me, tell me your concerns, any questions about the market, sector, whatever, I'll discuss with them. But I think you have to be. And, in the broader part, coming back to your point about shouldering things, just to give a guide about what I have to shoulder as such. Yeah. With some of our funding facilities, I had to sign a personal guarantee for over £250 million personal guarantee. And it's actually called a bad boy guarantee. It's an American legal phrase. You can Google it and look it up. It's actually called a bad boy guarantee. And I have that PG on my head. No way do I have $250 million of assets or worth. But what that does is that enforces on me a huge element of responsibility. So whether it's to our intermediaries, whether it's to the FCA, whether it's to the team, there's a lot I have to shoulder there in terms of personal risk as to how this business operates, and that's clearly what it's designed for. It's designed to make sure that
I know, waking up
it's to stop me. Well, it's to stop me getting on a plane and disappearing off to the Bahamas, whatever.
You do see management not getting involved with the team, or the door's shut. Yeah. We'll work this out ourselves. We don't, because I think that worries people more than being open. I'd rather say, look, we're a bit fucked at the moment, but we're not too bad, as opposed to just shutting the doors because then no one knows, right? You've got to
no, definitely. Yeah, I have to have that communication, and I've always been open to the team as to what's happening here. So, we've had times openly in the last year where we've lent so much money, which is a great problem, but we filled the buckets up, and it's like, right, we need to extend those buckets. Can we just ease off inquiries a little bit? And sod's law inquiries go absolutely through the roof. Yeah. But like any non-bank lender or bank, we have to raise capital to lend. A bank has to raise deposits. We have to raise investment bank funding. So it's very hard to have a situation where you've got the taps completely open and you've got all this capacity, because having that much spare cash to lend is incredibly inefficient and creates a huge drag on the business or the bank or whatever it might be. So, there's been times when we've had to be completely open with the team. But in fairness, everyone in here is a really resilient bunch. We've been through, some real whacks and knocks in the last few years, and most of the team have stayed with us. Some have gone on to other businesses, and that's their journey. Full credit to them.
You've got
the retention rate's great. So it doesn't just sit with me. I think the whole team see, the knocks we go through, and certainly our sector, your sector, brokers, we've all had a pretty hard run over the last few years, but we're all still here and still going.
Had full head of hair beginning of last year.
This is a toupee.
So where do you see the market next year? Obviously, don't say worse than last year, because we don't want anyone doing anything they shouldn't do over Christmas. But in all honesty, where do you see it?
I'm a realistic optimist. Is how I like to position myself in life. This year, clearly, the rate rises has been quite punishing. A lot of resi homeowners have been hit on the remortgage side, coming off the COVID rates onto the post-COVID higher rates. But I think, there are some glimmers of hope coming through. One, the forward-looking markets on the rates is looking quite favourable. Yep. We've seen a lot of reductions in the market recently. I think the Bank of England have over-egged the pudding too much, and I've been quite vocal about this on LinkedIn to them and to others. That, even in their own admission, only 50% of the rate rise pain has come through to the market. The rest is going to come through in Q1. GDP figures the other day were a little bit painful, reduction. So I personally think we're going to see a quicker roll off into Q1. Yeah. A little bit more pain is going to come through, but then the rates are going to drop quicker than we thought. I'm not saying that rates need to be, 1%, because we all got hooked on that cheap era of credit, and I get that. but they will need to correct down a little bit, probably to 2.5%, 3%, and then hold there. Because when the Fed reduces, the Bank of England will reduce. They, historically they follow them. They jump, we jump. It's just the way it'll work. But housing market, I don't see any crash. And I was looking at my LinkedIn post I did a year ago, pretty much to the day, saying there won't be a crash in 2023. Yeah, there's been a reduction, but there hasn't been a crash. I think it's going to be a better year broadly. I'm confident. I mean, our inquiry levels are very strong at the moment, and I think we're a reasonable barometer for the rest of the market in terms of the house building and homeowner market.
I agree with you in regards to inquiries.
So
that's the secret, isn't it? Like, imagine if the phone wasn't ringing. We all say this like it's been a tough year, but everyone I'm speaking to, broker or lender, the phone's ringing. Which I think is it's a positive sign, right? If we were on the edge of something worse, there's nothing worse than having a crap year and then the phone going dead.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't mean you can help everyone, but business is there. The debt's still there, isn't it? People still need to service debt. We're not stopping.
Yeah, exactly. No, the world won't stop. I mean, people still want jobs. Hiring and growth is still going to happen in the new year. Confidence is going to come back, and it is coming back. And it almost feels that people just want to get Christmas out of the way now, get into January, there not be another war or a major, issue on the continent. Then we can all just crack on and live like it was, 2019.
I was talking about this the other day. I said, does anyone else want Christmas in March? Because we just started getting busy again. We just started picking up real momentum, and everything looks bright. And then we go, okay, let's stop for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Get going. But at the same time, we need a break. It was a tough year.
Yeah, exactly. But broadly, I'm pretty positive about the year, and I'm sure you guys will see business picking up into January as lenders are more confident and things will get better. So that's certainly the way I'm seeing it. And touch wood, any wood around here. I hope it will get better.
You're right. I mean, actually, just on that. So obviously, like you said before, you've built quite a resilient team there. You've been through this. It is a bit, I don't want to be too dramatic, like the Band of Brothers type thing, but it does make a difference, right? You've all been through quite a tough time together. So actually, when it's good, you can all celebrate that together as well. I think it's really important that you've kept that team going.
Completely.
It's in regards to teams. How quickly was it built? Did you start off relatively small and then have a kind of a boost? Because 50 is quite big for over 5 or 6 years, isn't it? And that's a fairly steady, or was it steady, or did you rise up quite quickly?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Looking back, on day one, it was myself and Nick Hilton, sat in an office on Dover Street in Mayfair, tiny little office, and just the two of us. Then it was Annabelle, who left us recently to go and work at her husband's brokerage. So it was bittersweet that she went, but not, still best of friends. And then it was Damani, I believe, was the third hire. And then the team was pretty much flat for probably 18 months, and we reached a peak of about 20. Then we started to take on, the investment bank funding lines, which require compliance, treasury, finance, a dedicated collections team. And then it built out really from there. But I think, as most see in our sector, bridge lenders can get to a reasonable size, but then the redemptions and the churn and the origination you have to do is so incredibly high. Whereas, just to give you a guide at the moment, we'll be lending 40 million a month with an average loan size of about 700,000. But then we may have 45, 50 million of redemptions in 1 month. So to keep that net book growth it is very hard. So you almost naturally reach a point where your team plateaus. And that's pretty much where we are now with the size of the loan book at 500 million. It's, it's a big old size and a big old churn that we have. So after that, the next human resource growth will be buy-to-let, other products, more regulated and so on. So I'd say for the size we are now, it's probably about right. But the growth was, almost like 2-stage, 3 to 4 people, up to 20, sat there for a bit, COVID, and then went up.
Were there any particular growing pains in that you remember that would have been, maybe as people are growing, when maybe they're growing their teams, in regards to size, or you kind of had the foundations nice, didn't you? You'd done the foundations properly, so it's.
I mean, as you know, Marcus, not telling you to suck eggs. You get the right person in place, and then all the team beneath them fits beautifully, and that culture and that passion becomes infectious, and everybody within that team looks up, feels inspired, feels passionate about their leader, and then the whole thing falls into place. So I don't like taking much credit for it, but I think the culture we set within the business is super important, and that all comes down from me as to what I feel like, how I deal with pressures, how I deal with stresses, how we deal with major problems. And if I'm dealing with it with a cool, calm head, and we know there's a solution, the rest of the teams do, and we're very fortunate that treasury, finance, compliance, collections, sales, IT, and so on, all can deal with whatever problems we face, and that all comes from me. And if you choose the right people, like Jamie Pritchard shares a lot of the same mental traits I do in terms of dealing with problems, as one example, then the rest of the team does. So I'd like to say, I don't really do much. It's all the team, to be honest. It's all about people.
You're absolutely right.
In your business, it's exactly the same.
Culture is 100% top down, and it doesn't matter whether you've written on the wall and you've got a fucking ping pong table and the rest of it. The culture can't. Do you know? I just keep hearing people talk about culture, and actually, a lot of it is not what people think it is. It's not about the ping pong table and the Friday night drinking. It's about how people react and how their behaviours are the same as everyone else's in the company, and it definitely drips down from. You see it all the time. Bad leadership leads to bad culture.
Completely. Yeah, definitely. And we've had situations where, shit's really hit the fan, and I'm not a person to go over their shoulder and go, "You've effed up, right, that's it," and be completely harsh. Yeah. The way I like to deal with it is, right, there's been a mistake, there's been a problem. How are we going to fix it? I don't care who's done it. I don't want to shout at them, don't want anything like that. It's like, let's be constructive and let's work out a solution to this and learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And if you have that open dialogue and that mindset of no one's going to be berated if they make a mistake, they can only learn from it, you find you have this business where everybody's very open about making a mistake. They'll come to you and go, "I messed up here." It's like, all right, great, let's fix it.
That means they're not afraid to try something then all of a sudden the business gets better. If everyone's concerned about being told off, you literally just stay the same. There's no benefit to it whatsoever.
Oh, it's like going back to the school days. If you were going to get told off by your teacher or you had an awful teacher, you're treading on eggshells, and then nothing good happens when you have a culture like that. But as you say, rightly, the ping pong tables and all that stuff, it's just fluff. Like we've got, dartboard, we do pizza days, we've got beer fridges. So like, that's cool.
Buffet, I'll tell you that. Best buffet.
Yeah, well, we do, we pride ourselves in that. But there's so much more to it from that. And it's all people. And at the end of the day, that's your business is all about that, is people. And our business is all about people. And treat them well, you'll get the most out of them. And it's not rocket science at the end of the day. And if you get one bad egg into the business, which we've had in the past with a few people, it corrupts the rest of the team around them. So you have to be very careful. It's
incredible to watch that, It's like a nature documentary. Do you know when someone actually, because you do think that you can change someone but someone's behaviours are so deep set in them that it is so strange to watch someone spread, a toxic personality in a business. It's bizarre when it happens. You can't underestimate having one bad egg in a good bunch, how detrimental it is to the business. It's huge.
Well, completely, and you'll see that even more than I do. And it pulls everybody else down around them. They end up being a negativity sap. It's like that battery diagram about, you want to stay around positive people. If you go around negative people, negatives attract and so on. And I'm a big believer in that law of attraction. For me, it's you manifest what you think about and what you believe in, and you get it. Yeah. Whether it's luck, fate, the universe, who knows? But
working if really hard has been defined as the secret to that law of attraction. Is
exactly. It's it's a mix, hard work, a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, a little bit of the opportunity, and all that amalgamates together. But it's the hard work that underpins any success. But there's a lot of resilience in people. Certainly we found that in here, that almost like they're a glutton for punishment. They enjoy the torture of what we go through, and they still stay around. And there's certain people in this business, I think, you've been through a lot, but they're like, right, I'm ready again. I'm ready to build up to the next challenge. And you know what? I look at that and go,
do you think we'll all be bored when it's easy? Do you think we'll all be like, because I would love a 3 or 4 year run at just making some money. Just doing it, everything going really nice, no wars, no pandemics, and that kind of thing. Do you reckon we'll get a bit restless? We'll be like, I'm used to fighting fires every day. Now I've got to.
Well, I always like to think along the lines of don't wish it was easier, wish you were stronger. Yeah. And it sounds like some Tony Robbins quote or some Instagram rubbish, but I think it's true. Life is not easy. There's a lot of challenges, like outside of work. I've had loads of challenges this year. My son's been in A&E about 14 times with various illnesses or accidents, and it's been hellish outside of work for me. In fact, it's almost impacted work with people saying, "My God, you're so ill. You've had loads of time off." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I've got loads of problems at home." They only see Guy Glenhawk sort of thing. So you have to try and separate the two. But we all have problems, but it makes you more resilient. You get used to it. And at the end of the day, we are very resilient people. But mentally, it's, builds you up and builds you up. But I agree. I wish I could have a bit of an easy run. And certainly Christmas this year, I'm taking 2 weeks to do nothing.
We'd have another problem, wouldn't we? Because then we'd start growing more. Then it'd be easier, and then you grow because you don't stay in yourself, do you? We're never at capacity. So no matter how good we get or how hard it is, we're never quite at the end. So we're always going to be. There's always going to be a problem, right? That's why we do what we do.
Exactly, and even if you look at people that win the lottery and they get dumped a load of money into their account, it's like, right, well, where's the challenge now? Where's the mental stimulation? It's like, oh, let's just go out and spend it.
I read yesterday, I don't know how, I can't back up this stat, but I heard on the radio, 70% of, I was a podcast, but 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years. I just think they haven't earned it, so they can't really. I'll tell you what it was. Unfortunately, so there's no guarantee that's right. But
I think it is about that statistic, and a lot of that comes down to look at the basic economics of if someone does win 50 million quid, they'll go out and buy a 15 million pound house, but not realise it's going to cost them several 100,000 a year to run it, and to make that several 100,000, they need to reinvest that remaining 35 million quid to get a yield on it, and then how are they going to get a decent yield to pay it? And there's a deeper conversation about all that, it's the same thing. You want to keep that mental stimulation, and don't get me wrong, I'd love to win the lottery; it'd be great. But
I do think that I'd love to try and be that 70%. I'm all right with it. I'm comfortable with it. It's not the end of the world. Someone else is 50 mil.
So you got to keep the old brain going. You got to keep it active because challenges build us up. For sure.
I mean, this is a close question, but do you still love it? Because it sounds like you do when we talk. It sounds like you'd never lose that kind of passion, even in the tough times. Is it still a passion?
That's a good question, Marcus. And I'm not going to lie. I've had times in the last few years where I've been like, right, pull the ripcord, pull the parachute, I'm out of here. But you know what? A business to me is it takes time, and it's very easy to get caught up these days with seeing the successes online, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, or whatever, and going, oh God, I'm pegging yourself against them, going, oh, I want to be them, I want to be them. Especially recently, like West One, hugely successfully selling a couple of years ago, and Danny with his great success. People point at that, start a bridge lender, and go, I want that. Really, you don't see what he went through. You don't see the journey he had, which was incredible hard work, building up a hugely successful business, and all the sacrifice he went through. So it's very easy for people to go, you know what, I love it the whole time. Whereas reality is, for me, I have had times that I felt that let's just pack this in. But I'm on a journey, and it's a 10-year journey for me. And we're only 5 and a bit years into this. There's still another 5 years to go. And there's a lot more in the tank for me. And I want to see Glenhawk get to that position where I can turn around and go, you know what, I built that up to a size where I built that up as CEO, bring in a CEO who's even more experienced than me, and then take it to that next part of the journey. I'm not that precious to go, I can take this the whole way. I know there'll be certain skill sets that'll be needed to get us past $1 billion of assets under management and so on. So,
how do you think that about the next stage of the business? I mean, my business is obviously a lot smaller than yours, but you look at like the next level and whether you're actually have the skill set to do the next thing. I know we're always learning, but you get to a certain point, don't you, where your business outgrows your skill set, right? Or someone else can do it. Was that always part of your? I know you said 10 years then. Was that your goal at the beginning, or is that something that's come up in it when you see how it's growing, or is it?
Yeah, I think at the start I wanted to. I never really thought about it, and I think more recently, when you surround yourself with some exceptionally skilled people, whether it's our CFO or treasurer or Jamie or anyone within the business, and you look at their skill sets and think, yeah, you know what, they can do a better job than I can at those things.
Yeah.
And then for running the business going forward, as we do scale, certain traits that I have might not be suitable for, growing a £1 billion plus loan book business. And that might be my, entrepreneurial side, which is I'm very impulsive. I'll see something and I'll do it. The way my mind works, being I'm heavily dyslexic. I'm not using that as an excuse to how it works, but I jump around and my mind's like, right, let's do that, and let's launch that product. But the reality is it's not that simple anymore. We can't just go out and go, right, launch the product next week or do that, which is why I like investing in other businesses and, being a non-exec on a few other things that I do.
Your brain busy, so Glenhawk stays on.
So Glenhawk's there, then I've got all the little like fun, quick wins here. But no, I will at some point move aside and bring in a chief executive who will take it to that next level, and I'll step to chairman. And my good friend Michael Dean at Avamore did a very similar thing. He stepped aside, focusing on other things, and that's working well.
Dimitri's coming on the podcast actually as one of the
he's good lad.
Good lad. Things. But Michael's taking non-exec side of things now, only chairman, and then away from that side of things.
And I think that works well.
How do you think you'll cope with it? I know we're miles away. We're not miles away, but I know because someone else running the business that you set up as a two-man band, it must be quite hard to stomach. Or do you just see it as a machine now that is?
Yeah, I think the question is when is that point going to happen? And for me, it's not now. It's probably not this year, or that's in 2024. It's probably going to be the year after that, I would have thought. Once we've entered the buy-to-let space. The loan book's heading towards 750-ish. To me, it feels like that's a nice time to move to a role where I can still have strategic input. I can still help with the day-to-day, but it'll be more of a, executive chair or something, and almost hand the baby over a little bit for that next portion of growth. Because I know my skill sets. I'd love to sit around and grow it all the way. But if I can see someone who can come in and be a real firework and deliver even more exceptional growth, then we'll bring them in. And certainly there's some amazing people in the sector that I look at and go, I'd love you to run the business and take it from 750 mil up to 3 billion and then a trade sale into one of the banks or whatever. But when that day comes, I'm not exactly sure yet, because I still love it. I still love the day-to-day. I love the people, love the story.
Stuff, isn't it? I was speaking to someone recently who's recently stepped down and they've gone into a chairman type position, and they were saying that it's because something happened that was quite important and they didn't really care because it's the day-to-day stuff and they're not really involved in that anymore. It didn't really get them out of bed anymore, and so that's a great time to move over and let someone else in who was actually already running the operational side of the business and just get them to do that role. I think that's a good point.
No, exactly. And I do miss the stuff we did in the early days. Like we had loads of desks and chairs delivered the other day and got my toolkit out and started building it, and everyone's coming into the office going, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I actually just quite enjoy building stuff. And I did it on the first day. I'll still do it now. And I don't know whether that's something in my mind about, I've got a huge love of Lego and building things. I just like building things. Giant Lego. Yeah. And when it gets to a certain point, like Glenhawk, a big Lego set, you want someone else to take it over. And that will happen at some point, as I say, probably 2025. But until then, it's just too enjoyable what I do. And maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but it's great fun.
Does it feel more machine-like than at the beginning? Because I speak to some new lenders and it's just quite cool at the beginning. You know what I mean? It's a bit mavericky, before you've got like investor money and other people say in the business and that kind of thing, that's quite it's the beginning of business is fun, right? I get to see that all the time because we help build the businesses, so I get that enjoyment from other people's. But do you think does it feel different when it's more of a machine and that kind of the first bit of money you lent and that kind of thing?
Yeah, hugely. I think you have different milestones. So you have, let's say, your first loan, you have your first redemption, have your first default perhaps, but you have all these certain milestones that will build up for that initial part of the journey. And when you reach the size we are now, it becomes almost a bit of a sausage factory. You're just putting in loads of cash, you're getting out loads of loans, and it works like quite an efficient beast. But the frustrating part is you're trying to constantly improve it. You're originating like mad, redeeming like mad, and your systems in between have to be, perfect. But nothing is ever perfect, and we make mistakes, and we'll put our hands up and say we missed that, we did that. We try and be as best we can. But yeah, certainly where we get to now, I'm more hands off. I only see loans that a certain size within our credit policy that I need to sign off, or Execco need to sign off. But crucially, we still maintain control within the business. None of our loans need to go to an external party to go, right, you can lend on that. All decisions are made in-house. So 90% of the loans don't even come to me. They get, they fit within the bucket, we lend on them, that's it. Certain loans do. So it has become very autonomous. But on that side of it, it means we can do the scale and the volume of lending we're doing and deliver a great service, not just to our brokers and clients, but also to our funders. They trust us, they believe in us, and the whole machine or factory works.
Just a different machine. It's just a different fun, as lending as your first is.
Yeah, it's like we've gone from, I don't know, a Game Boy games console to, a quantum computer or something. Still just broadly similar functions. But
it's still fun. It's just very advanced. So
exactly.
Let's touch on that actually about, obviously we're going to the new year, people are talking about how we can improve next year and that kind of thing. Because you've got so many moving parts, and I know we talked about just twitching the dial of the 1% better. Do you... I suppose if we like into recruitment, so we have like 4 pillars of our delivery, if you like, and we're always looking at what we can do in those. Do you systematically go through that and make everything 1% better, or is it just ad hoc as things need to be improved? Or do you actually sit down and go, right, these are our 7 categories, if you like. How can we make each one better? How do you kind of, what's the thought process behind getting better?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time, rather than like the top-down approach, what I like to do is have a complete open dialogue with the team and say, how can I make your life better? Or how can your managers make your life better? Whether it's, a comfier office chair or a better keyboard or a better mouse, anything that makes your working day better, that can improve your efficiency, will ultimately have a good knock-on. And that's obviously at a very, very simple level. But then when it comes to improving the product, the service and the proposition, it's always running off that continual feedback loop. So whenever we see a problem or an issue, it's like, right, let's fix that, let's make it better. And I wouldn't say we set out, every year to be like, here's our core principles, this is what we're doing. It's more, as something comes up, let's fix it and make it better, whether it's, funding, whether it's sales, whether it's something on the process, on the underwriting side. It's let's be very reactive as opposed to sitting back and waiting. So yeah, I'd like to say for the new year, we've got improvements that we wish to do, but we're already working on them now into the year. And then as much as I love a new year for a fresh start, it's a change on the calendar to 2024, not 2023. And then ignoring that, we should be always improving and not using a new year as a new start. Just treat every day as a new start as such. But yeah, we've just got to improve constantly. And if we're not improving, brokers will take their business elsewhere. And clearly we want to maintain those strong relationships we've got and always be a partner of choice.
I find that quite motivating that someone else could just leave me tomorrow and use someone else. I think, someone's nipping at your heels. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think it's quite motivating. In fact, the second we stop marketing, or the second we stop giving good customer service, or the second we don't pick up the phone, someone else is there, isn't there? We're all in a market where there's lots of people that are trying to do what you're doing. So it's a good motivating factor.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point you say there, like nipping at your heels. And you always want to be improving, because if you're not, someone else is coming up behind you very quickly and they're going to take your business away from you. I'd like to think, it's an incredibly competitive market, bridging. Originating is bloody hard. And it's a very tiring business to run and be in.
You're also just confident in it. Like you said before, like the second you've lent the money out, you've got to lend more money, and then you've got to get that back.
Yeah, it's not like a buy-to-let platform where you can get it out and it's gone for 2 to 5 years. And that's like, when we do buy-to-let next year, it's a nice product to get out the door. But you do have to keep on top of it. And there's a lot of competition in the market. There's a lot of great lenders, and there's a lot of some brilliant emerging lenders over the last few years that they've come to me and I've supported them. And even now I get lenders messaging me going, oh, can you help us start? Can you help us get going? And I'll happily have a call with them or a Zoom with them and just say, look, this is my advice. This is how we've done it. Because I don't see it as competition. I mean, one day there'll be competition, but we'll be at a different stage in the market with our growth. So
I do love that. Right? That's genuine. That's not bullshit, right? I've put someone to you that was setting up, and you had a conversation with them, which is very helpful. And you're right. You've got that kind of abundance mindset, which helps, because it's pointless keeping everything insular. I think that's one of the major problems with the industry, is that they don't talk enough, and you've always been quite open in regards to how things are going and how you do stuff. I think you put something online recently, didn't you, about having have a conversation with people about who funding lines, because
we're doing a podcast on that. We've had about 350 people sign up to it, which is about 300 more than I thought we'd get.
Really? Well, I sent it to someone I'm working with, and they said "Oh, do you think Guy will be okay with that? Because obviously we're looking to lend money." And I said, "That's who else is doing it?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, it's about just being open and transparent. We don't really benefit. Well, we don't benefit off it at all. It's just about being right. This is how we're funded. This is how it works. And you know, it's great for everybody from recruitment firms to brokers to borrowers to just understand how it works and go into those details. And I don't think really anybody's properly done that because it is quite a quirky way how a non-bank lender is funded, and a lot of nuances that everybody needs to know about. So yeah, that'll be quite fun. But again, it's just about being open in the market, how we operate. There's enough business to go round for the right lenders that are doing it, and as you know, there's some great ones out there. There's enough business to go round, and the ones that perhaps have not been the best operators in the last few years have become known, or they've started, or they've had problems, have fallen away. So for the right businesses with the right skills, right teams, right funding, there's enough to go around for sure. That's my view anyway.
Yeah, and like I said, it's props to you for happy to share the knowledge as well. I think it does. It says a lot about people if you're happy to extend that. And again, competition is like I have no problem with competition either. I think it's a good.
It's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in regards to, let's just kind of flip it onto the broker side of things, because we are seeing a lot more brokers trying to get onto the bridging commercial side of things, and obviously the market's been tighter, right? So people have been selling life insurance, they've been doing their commercial stuff, they've not been passing on as much. What kind of tips for brokers can you give when they're thinking about these deals? What's your kind of sweet spot, and what is going to help them get these over the line? Because there's a lot of dross out there as well, right? And I don't know if everyone knows how to work out what's what. So any tips you can give them when they're speaking to new clients and new deals?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose firstly they can do their job far better than I can.
More from a lending point of view, when you look at it coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing, because I'm a borrower myself, and I use brokers for my projects and various bridging and buy-to-let pieces. And the one thing that I really like is if you can really understand the lender, if you can understand how they're funded, partly why we're doing this podcast on the funding, and the nuances of how they operate. So do they have external credit committees? Who's their funding? What does it look like when a loan goes wrong, perhaps? Because clearly things do go wrong at points. Is the lender going to be fair? For example, at Glenhawk, we offer a 30-day forbearance period, so we don't charge any fees or defaults for 30 days, which I think is very fair compared to some lenders out there that whack 5% on if you go one day over. And it's all about that open dialogue. 'Cause end of the day, the broker doesn't want their client being treated adversely because it reflects badly on them. So dig into the lender, see what their processes and systems are like. Come and meet me for a coffee. I'll talk you through the whole spiel and the journey and what we can do. But importantly, when there's a problem, know that you can pick the phone up to the lender. So whether it's Nick Hilton, who's probably one of the best problem solvers I've ever met when it comes to structuring finance deals, or calling me and saying, listen, we just need a bit of help here. Can you work with us? And for the size we are, we'll happily do that. And I think there's a lot of outfits out there where you can't get that connection anymore to the decision maker to push something through. I'm not saying we can override the decisions that our amazing team do. Yeah, but it's more, how can we help? So, just dig into the funding, dig into the product, and the quirks and the criteria, and also making sure your client's not going to be let down is crucial for all of us, for a broker and so on, and work with the lender. But we love our. I don't really like the word broker because it does it a disservice. It's like an intermediary. Intermediary sounds more what it is. It's a key part to our business, and we pay brokers probably about $600,000-700,000 a month at the moment in referral fees or intermediary fees. So big part of our business, and dig in. Find out how they're operating would be my best tips.
I do think
what do I know?
As more and more brokers come onto the market of bridging commercial, because they are enticed by the nice amount that you give away, right? It's a sizable amount for these guys, but at the same time, if you don't educate yourself and you don't find out the perks of it, one, it's going to be really transactional if customers aren't coming back to you. and two, you're just not, 2% of nothing is nothing, right? It doesn't.
Yeah,
You're not gonna
for
get.
sure. I mean, it pays well to the intermediaries, but it's fast paced. It needs to be done
Yeah.
correctly, and as long as the intermediary and the lender know each other and are working really well, then you can get through most things. Certainly, that's what we find with our brilliant network of brokers and intermediaries that we use. It's makes life a lot
Come to you
easier.
with inquiries where I've got a bridging deal. What do you think?
Yeah.
Or literally like that.
Yeah, we get that a lot now, which I quite like. It's like, here's the deal. It's a bit quirky. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And we'll find a way to make most things work. But we have our limits where we can't lend on everything. There are some huge lenders out there, like some great ones like Together and West One, that have a broader criteria, and they can do that. Whereas we'll have our pool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can speak to us directly, and we're here for our intermediaries. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Guy. Genuinely appreciate it today. It's been really, really helpful. Hopefully, some brokers have got something for it as well, or anyone listening. If people want to speak to you, how can they get hold of you? What's the best way to get hold of you?
No, just firstly, thanks for having me, Marcus. It's been a really enjoyable chat with some great questions. But yeah, as always, I'm happy to speak on email, give me a call or whatever. But my email's gh@glenhawk.com. If you want anything about who to use in the sector, who's good, or any advice as to if you've been mad enough to get into bridging, then happy to talk through. But yeah, GH@Glenhawk, and thank you very much for having me, Marcus.
That's all right, no problem at all. And all of Glenhawk and Guy's socials will be on all of the posts that we make of these. So if anyone wants to speak to him or anyone at Glenhawk, then follow those. Thank you, everyone watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify. I will catch up with you soon. Thanks, Guy. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Marcus. Thanks a lot.